I'm gonna do this in one take because I don't feel like wasting a bunch of my time. But I have some bullet points here that I'm gonna go over. And first, I'm gonna start with the reason why I wanted to make this video is because just today, across two cards, I was able to increase my credit by $10,500 within like 20 minutes with no hard inquiries. Everything just like a regular day, right? So the point of this video is essentially I'm going to talk about what is credit and how to build up your credit score. Now, with that being said, I'm not rich. I'm not living in a Lamborghini. I have a regular Camaro, the same car I've had since I was 19. You know what I'm saying? I don't do a bunch of crazy stuff, but I don't worry about how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't worry about how I'm going to do things. I don't worry about going on dates. I don't worry about like gym memberships or nothing like that. I don't worry about how I take my trips or like to do my races and stuff. And there's a certain freedom with doing that, you know. I can't think of the last time that I went to sleep and thought to myself, how am I gonna pay for this, right? So the 5 points I have is on here. I have a little notepad that I wrote. So number 1 is gonna be what is credit? 2, why should you care? 3, what affects your credit? 4, how to build it. 5, the biggest mistakes that I've made and that I've seen other people make in life. And that's it. So number 1, what is credit? You know, I don't have no crazy definition on here. I'm going off the top of my head. So what I think of credit is essentially it's your ability to borrow money from lenders, to use their money to be able to fund your life without having to worry about it, right? Number 2, why should you care about credit? So credit, when you have it, you are able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do, like just that simple. So the points I have on here is financial freedom, right? 2, you have less stress. So say for example, you get a flat tire and you don't have the money in your account. By having a credit card, you are able to still resolve that problem and worry about it at a later date, and then you can still continue to do what you were doing without having to, now you have to allocate the money that you was going to put for your light bill to now you have to fix a car tire, and now your new problem is, how do I pay my light bill, right? It's the same thing I have for emergencies. For example, and I'll try not to talk too much about myself, but for example, back in January, my water heater went out, right? And it's fucking January in Pennsylvania, so that was a problem. So to get a new water heater, I want to say that it cost about $550, right? Now, I have the money in my savings accounts to pay for that water heater, but then to do that, I would have to take out my money from my savings to do that. So instead, I just put it on my credit card instead. And now I'm able to pay off $200 in January, $200 in February, then $150 in March. And then that resolves the problem. But within those 3 months now, we have hot water again. Fucking winter in Pennsylvania. Another bullet point I have is the freedom to do what you want. You know, a lot of things that stress people out is being stuck in a job or a position that they don't like because they aren't able to. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, and I don't mean that in a way to come to people. That's just how the economy is and stuff now is. So by having more credit though, even though it's not advisable, if worse come to worse, if your manager is really getting out of pocket, if people's really talking crazy to you, if you need to take time away to reconnect with your family, by having credit and then having a sort of a source of income, you are going to be able to do that, which it relieves a lot of stress. And then for large purchases, so things such as buying a new car. So say your car stops working and you need to get a new car. By having a good credit score, it gives you more favorable terms so that you don't have a higher APR, so that you're not sitting here allocating so much money to you don't have a $700-800 car payment. Your car payment could be mostly focused on actually paying off the debt, not paying off the interest and paying off the debt. That's why you should care about credit. Essentially, by having a good credit score, you can relieve a lot of financial emergencies that might pop up in your life in this thing we call adulting. You know what I mean? So what affects your credit score? I have 5 main categories, and I want to say the number one out of all of them is your payment history. That is essentially you never miss a payment on any of your credit accounts. Number 2 is going to be your utilization. What your utilization is, it's the percentage based off of your total credit limit. So if you have a $10,000 credit limit, if you have a $2,000 balance, your utilization will be 20%. The way that you calculate your utilization is you have how much debt that you have and you divide it by your total credit limit. So if you have $3,500 out of a $10,000 limit, you would divide 3,500 divided by 10,000. You would get 35%, or 0.35, which would translate to 35%. Next is your total accounts. So how many accounts you have in total. I'm gonna come back to it, but why that's important. But essentially, your total accounts is whether you have just one credit card and one car payment, that's 2 accounts, or you have 6 credit cards, 2 cars, which would make 8 accounts, and then you have a house, that's 9 total accounts. So it's just how many accounts do you have in total that is from lending. And then your inquiries. So I think I put in here in parentheses that your inquiries is honestly the least important out of all of them. But with that being said, you want to have as little inquiries as possible if you plan on doing a large purchase, such as getting a car, getting a house, within like the next year. Really the next 6 months, honestly. But the inquiries, I think, is something that I put that in parentheses because I feel like that's something that most people focus on the most, and it's really not that important in the grand scheme of things. The other categories have a much higher weight. So now number 4, how to actually build your credit. The number one thing about your credit, and I have to repeat, is make sure you pay every single thing on time. And it's not hard to do. We all have phones, and to really do it, it would probably take 30 minutes out of your day, but it would save you a lot of stress in the future. Is you need to find out when your payment due date is. And honestly, the apps that we use on our phones, it tells you when your payment due date is. And at the minimum, at least just pay the minimum payment. But I'll get back to that, why that's also not advisable to only do the minimum payment. But the number one is make sure you pay it on time, because if you do not pay it on time at any point, then you get something called like a I forget what it's exactly called, but basically having a missed payment, it has a much higher effect on your credit score than anything else. You could get 6 inquiries in 1 year on your account, and it still won't affect you as much as having one missed payment. The second most important thing to build it is to keep your utilization low while you're building your credit. So you don't want to have a 80% utilization on your credit account, on your credit profile, because when you're looking to try to build it, when you're trying to ask for credit limit increases, which I'll get into, that is going to be what the lenders, like your banks or the car dealership or the bank to loan you a mortgage, that's going to be what they're looking at, is your utilization, because it's essentially telling them that you don't have enough money to fund your lifestyle. So you're basically asking for an increase, but you could barely get by in the first place. So for example, if your utilization is at 3%, so let's say you have a $10,000 credit limit, you only use 300 out of that 10,000. That's telling the banks that like you don't really need the $10,000. You're just trying to build your profile. Versus if you have a 9,000 out of 10,000, that's a 90% utilization. They're like, you basically are about to max out all your shit. That's no other way to really put it. The next thing that you do, which is what I do, is even though I have a lot of credit accounts, I really only use one or two bank. I really only use two cards for everything that I pay for, whether it's for getting gas, going to the grocery store, buying my supplements, paying for my gym memberships, paying for my Netflix, Hulu, my phone bill, everything. I spread it over two accounts, and that's it. And then everything else, what you want to do to continue to have history on those accounts, which this is an important point, is that say you have 10 different credit cards. What I do is, like, and I don't do it once a month, I just do it intermittently, right? Is, let's just say you're going to the store real quick and you're buying dog food. You use that one card that you haven't used. Oh shit. You use the one card that you haven't used in 3 months, and you buy the dog food with that real quick. That's just to keep the account active, because you don't want any accounts to close, which is the next point. You don't, while you're building up your credit over years, you don't want any accounts to close, because then you lose all of that history with that account. So if you had a credit card that you've had since you were 18 and you're 30 now, keep that shit alive, because that's 12 years of credit history you have on your profile. Versus if you lose it, now you just lost 12 years of credit history, which it goes against your whole profile. Just a second, because these dogs are annoying. So now the next important point is you want to ask for a credit limit increase every 6 months for every single card that you have. I have it literally scheduled like on my notes app and on my calendar app, that, for example, the two that I said I got a credit limit increase today, I calculated the technical term for the banks is you want to wait 181 days. So it's essentially 6 months. So I literally looked up today, what is 181 days from today, which it's like somewhere in December. So in that time period, that's going to be when on day 182 or 83, I have it on my calendar, ask for a credit limit increase for this card. What that does is that compounds over the years. So the card that I got, one of them I got an 8,000 limit increase on. I've had that card since I was 19. And when I first got the card, it was like I only had like a $2,000 limit on it, and they really only increased it by like $500, $1,000, and they increase it based off of how much the limit is already at on the card, and they increase it from there. So the higher that your limit is, with the future increases, it'll be higher increases. So your first credit limit increase may only be $500, but 3 years from now, that shit will end up being $8,000. That was what it was, right? And that's just how it goes. If your credit limit is low, if your credit score is low, I should say, it'll be harder. That's just how it is. It'll be harder for you to get a higher credit card. So you have to humble yourself. That's something that a lot of people can't do. You have to humble yourself, and you have to get something called a secured credit card. And you have banks like Chime. You have other different ways. I'm not a fucking financial guru. Like, look the shit up. You know what I'm saying? You have it on your phone. You can look it up, and you get a lower limit credit card, and you'll just have to play the game for some time with that lower limit. But all the basis of everything I just said so far, it still applies to that card. But if you do that over time, that will build up your credit score. And you just want to little by little do things that you can to increase it more and more. And just, if it's at the low end right now, you just have to play the game and make sure that you don't make any more mistakes going forward. You shouldn't beat yourself up based off what you did in the past, because credit is a long-term game and life is long. So you have to have delayed gratification. You're not going to see the results of what you're doing for the next year, for the next 2 years. I'm 25. I got my first credit card when I was 18. It's only 7 years later now that I'm finally starting to really see the benefits of this. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. But I'm 25 now. When I'm 30, that's 12 years, and I'll be in a much better position than I am at 25. Now, number 5, I have the biggest mistakes that I've seen people make. I've made some of them, but it's really what I've seen other people do, honestly. And so you should learn from other people. You shouldn't learn from making your own mistakes. It's just a smarter thing to do. You shouldn't fuck up your own life before you decide, like, okay, let me not make that mistake. You know what I mean? You see other examples of it. So again, the number one mistake that I've seen, which is the most important, is missing payments. Do not miss any payments, no matter what. Like, if you cannot afford what you're putting on your credit card, then don't fucking buy the shit. It's just that simple. Like, you shouldn't worry about what other people do, because if you try to do everything to try to live like other people, most people don't live well. So you should not try to do things to live like other people. Blue, come here. Right? So you shouldn't do that. The next thing is doing only the minimum payment, right? So that's something that many people do, which is a very bad mistake to do because it'll compound over time. So you got to always remember that the goal of banks and companies is not to make sure that you're living a better life. Their goal is to make more money for themselves. And the way that they get money for themselves is based off of interest. So just to give out fake numbers, if you have a $5,000 credit card, that's the limit on it, and you have a $500 balance on it, they'll tell you that the minimum payment is only $50. So then if you pay that $50 only, you'll still owe $450 on that credit card, and that $450 will still be hanging over your head. That's the shit that makes you feel like you can't sleep at night. You don't want to do that. Pay more than the minimum payment, even if it's $75, even if it's $80. You want to do as much as you can. I would advise to pay off the whole shit. You know what I mean? When you can. That's the best route to do. But if you can't do that, pay more than what you would pay on the minimum payment. If you pay only the minimum payment, how I just said is $50, you would have to do 10 payments. That's 10 months to pay off a $500 balance. You make more than $500 all the time. You spend fucking $100 going to the club and all that. Put that shit on the credit card. Stop letting the interest build up. Lifestyle inflation is the next one. So people would think, oh, well, the typical mistake that people make, that I've seen people make is, and I've made this one, this is the one that I've made, is I have a higher credit limit, so now I'm going to be able to put more shit on this card. That is a very bad mistake. And again, that is what the companies are anticipating you'll do so that you owe them more money. Because you need to always remember, to go back, what is credit? It's just borrowing money from others so that you can fund your life. But you still have to pay that shit back. So if you had a $5,000 limit, now it's $10,000. That does not mean now you can spend $10,000 on this card, because you'll still have to get that $10,000 and pay that shit back. So you're just setting yourself up for future headaches. That's not what it is. The goal of getting a higher credit limit, like requesting credit limit increases, is to make sure that your utilization drops. So, for example, I'll have a moment of honesty. One of my cards, I have a $9,000 balance on it. And now, although that $9,000 seems like a lot, my total utilization across all of my cards, it's over $110,000. So my total utilization is still less than 10%. Versus if someone had a $9,000 balance on a $10,000 card, that's 90% utilization. That's not what you do. And the card that I have that on, the balance, the limit on it, I want to say it's like 18K, 18 something, right? And that's my main card that I use. I don't have that card and then I have $4,000 on another, and then $5,000 on another, and then $3,000 on another. No, it's only that. And the main reason that it's even gotten so high is because I've had big purchases over the last few months, which is kind of what I said the point of credit is. It was when I had to get my root canal, I had to get a new water heater, and then I had to pay for my car. I had like the brakes stopped working, and it was a $900 fee. Like those things add up, but that is the point of credit. So now I didn't have to pay all of those on the spot. Throughout the year, I'm going to pay them off, and quickly at that. I'm not gonna wait until December to pay off 9,000. I'm gonna be paying that shit off before the end of summer. You know, it was higher than that. Because I've been paying more than the minimum payment. So lifestyle inflation. So that I don't go on a rant. Just because you have a higher credit limit does not mean you use more of that credit. Even though I have one card that the limit on it is $36,000, but it's zero. My balance on it is zero because I don't use it. It's just every 6 months I ask for a credit limit increase, and throughout the 6 months, if I go to like Rita's and get like an ice cream or something, I'll use that real quick, and then I'll pay it off right after. And so that's what lifestyle inflation is. Don't equate more credit means more spending. And delayed gratification is just something that a lot of people just don't have, and it's something that you need to teach yourself, is that you need to be able to wait to see the outcomes of your progress. If you're not willing to wait, you're just going to make more mistakes, which is just going to create future headaches for you. The phrase that I go by is short-term solutions lead to long-term problems. It's just that simple. If you focus on only this week, this month, which is something that is hard to do when you don't have enough money, but you need to be able to see in the future. You need to think to yourself, not how is this purchase going to make me feel good for this next week or month. You need to think, how is these purchases going to affect me next year? If you think that, it makes you have a bigger vision on the stuff that you're spending your money on. So to reiterate, because this video is already at 22 minutes, which I'm not going to cut it, because it's not quick. I can't explain all of this shit in 3 minutes. It's just not going to happen, right? So I'll probably put timestamps under the video. But the main goals of credit is financial freedom. It's something that, even though I'm already feeling right now, and I'm not rich, I gotta repeat that. You know what I'm saying? I still have to work. I still have to pay bills. I still have to do all of that shit. But it's just the freedom of that. I can't really think of the last time that I went to sleep and I said, how am I gonna pay the water bill? It really just be, what day am I gonna pay it? Because I just put it on my credit card, and I use the points from my credit card, and I put those points into a savings account, and then in that savings account is earning interest. And that's just what I do, because you're already gonna allocate the money that you're spending it on a debit card. So you might as well just do the same thing and build up your credit. And so financial freedom is just that's how I visualize it. I really wasn't rich growing up, you know what I'm saying? And I know what it felt like to not have water, to not have cable, and it was embarrassing being in the school years and all of that, not having the newest shoes and all of that. And it's just it feels a lot better knowing that I can do that now, and I can do it when I want to. And I can only imagine in the future, when I have more income, more freedom, my credit limits are even higher. After another 7 years of compounding, it makes you feel good. Second is to long-term thinking. You need to be able to visualize your life beyond the next month, the next 6 months. You need to be able to visualize, what are you going to be doing the next year, the next 3 years. Delayed gratification. I know I said it a couple of times, but it's really the most important thing. You need to be able to understand that while you're building up your credit, all the points that I said, you're going to be asking for a credit limit. Like I just said, just to even one credit limit increase, you got to wait 6 months for the next one. What are you going to be doing in those 6 months? You're going to be working, you're going to be paying off bills and all of that, but you're not going to be seeing no benefits of that. You need to be able to still work and progress yourself, even though you're not seeing the rewards for it right now. Because when the rewards come in, it happens like that. Momentum is, the way that life usually works is that it's a lot of nothing is happening, and then all of a sudden a lot happens. And that's what delayed gratification is. You'll spend months and months saving up for a car, You know, like my first year being an adult, I had to walk to work back and forth. Literally, like when I was in the Marines, I had to walk back and forth to work, ask people for rides. More, I really didn't ask for a ride a lot because I didn't like asking for stuff. But I had to be able to go through that for a year, and now I've had my own car for the last 6 years. You know, that's what delayed gratification is. You need to be able to wait. Most people, when they turn 18, 19, they get the freedom. Now I want to have my own apartment. No, I want to have my own this. I want to get the new car. And now your car payment is $600-700. That's $600-700 that now you can't even allocate to your future self, to your own goals, to attack your goals. Versus if you would have just been able to wait, you have a $200 car payment, you have a $300 car payment, and that extra $300-400 a month times 12, that extra $48,000 to $5,000 a year, you could have been allocating that to yourself and investing in yourself, which then your future self would thank you. And then just the last point is really the freedom to go to sleep at night. And even though you're not rich, it's still to know, like, you're not going to sleep thinking, how am I going to pay for this? You know what I mean? I don't be on a date thinking to myself, damn, like, I hope she don't order this food so that the bill is $60 instead of $80. Like, no, it's just, fuck it. She pay the shit, you pay the shit. Or your friends that say, let's go to the movies real quick, or your friends say, let's go to this event, you can just do that. You know what I mean? There's a certain freedom in being able to do that, and it relieves a lot of stress. And stress is one of the biggest killers of people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, stress, it affects you nonstop. We think that is just something you think about, but your central nervous system thinks about stress all of the time. So if you're stressed out, it's always on you. It's why you'll always feel tired. It's why you won't feel like you have the motivation and energy to do extra things, which you don't want to do that. You rather save that energy, keep that energy, and be able to apply that to attack your life goals. And then, yeah, I guess that's the reiteration of it. I guess a quick thing is, like I said, the credit is important. The main things that affect your credit is your payment history, making sure you pay all your payments on time, your utilization, keep your utilization low, under 30%. I forgot to say that. You want to keep it under 30% in total. And the more accounts that you have, the better. You don't want to only have 1 or 2 credit cards, because if one of the credit cards get fucked up or you close the account, then you lost half your credit history. Versus if you have 10 credit cards and you only lost 1, then that's only 10% of your history. It has a much lower effect on you. Always make sure that you pay all of your payments on time. Your car payment, your minimum, if you want to do more than the minimum payment, but if at the worst, let's say you have a bad month, because it's happened to me, and a lot of shit pop up, then at least the minimum payment, no matter what, the minimum payment, that shit should take, honestly, it should take priority over a lot of things in your life. Like, if you have to decide between your minimum payment and going out with your friends, fuck your friends, like that ass, because your friends aren't going to be the one dealing with the shit months from now. You know what I mean? And that's really it. I'm not a financial guru. I just had a good moment today, and it's from hard work. You know what I'm saying? It's from discipline, and I thought that it would be something I should share with other people. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna really get no money out of it. I'm making it on my porch, on my phone, at a spur of the moment. So it may be some things I missed. Don't let that take away from the other 28 minutes of game I just gave you. And hopefully that helps people make better decisions in the future.